You're all set.
All right, good evening. Finance Committee meeting, June 8th, 2016. It's our last meeting for the summer break, and we will get together back in September. All right. Minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I only have one. It's very prolific minutes. Diana complained already that it's more minutes than she's ever written in her life. Okay. All in favor?
Next meeting, you can take the
Not me.
minutes.
I don't do
I thought
minutes.
they were in Portuguese, that's why.
All, yeah. All right, good. Okay, so the agenda tonight is hopefully very quick. I asked the school committee to come talk to us about the points I listed in the agenda, because we are breaking for the summer. And there are important things to talk about. The subcommittee will be getting together with the school committee during the summer to continue the discussion. So without further ado, school committee.
No, you by all means, sit in the chair.
Kevin, no.
Good evening.
Good evening, thanks for coming.
How's everybody?
All right, so just as a follow-up to the discussions that we've been having all year, I thought that we would end the year with a summary of where we are on a lot of those issues. And I know that Joe is not here, and I spoke with him on the phone at length. So let's see if we could just summarize big issues that we have. Obviously, the first one is school choice, marketing program. You guys committed to a program?
Yeah,
Where
we
are
made
we? What's going on?
Yeah, so I've got a handout for the committee, just to take a
good.
look at it.
Everybody know Kevin? Kevin's the new superintendent, starting July 1.
Oh, is that right, July 1?
That's Kevin.
It wasn't 4 months ago?
So I've got a sheet coming around, it's just 5 PowerPoint slides that I just want to share some kind of broad updates to the Finance Committee. We have a subcommittee that met on June 7th. We discussed a number of topics. One of those was the 8th grade marketing campaign, which we kicked off our kind of the general marketing campaign this past year. And this involved the high school, a number of the high school programs coming down to Middle School East and presenting kind of the offerings at the high school, both academic and extracurricular. We had a performance from the band and the cheerleaders. And the Middle School East students also went up to the high school and did a tour, as well as a couple of evenings, one evening for parents, one evening for parents and students to look at athletic programs and extracurriculars, where each of the teams and programs kind of had booths set up where they actually explained kind of what they did, what the commitment level was for each individual, like whether it's a sport or an activity. We had a pretty good kind of preliminary results on that. We won't know for sure until all the waiting lists and those types of things go through. But right now, the applications to BVT, we're down about 30%. And we're starting to create a buzz for the different programs that are happening in the high school. The goal of the marketing committee is to kind of expand next down to the lower grades. So there'll be kind of a focus on 7th grade next year as well as 8th grade. And then we're going to start to look at some ways we can kind of reach out to those parents that might be either choicing out at the earlier kind of elementary levels or, considering maybe making a move at different spots in the game. I think the new Woodland Elementary School will definitely, I think that's going to be a big draw for families. But, we're going to see over the next several years how some of these efforts are going to pay off. Additionally, we're doing outreach to some community groups, including realtors. We're going to set up a meeting with the press over the summer to talk about, in the media, how we can have a better relationship with the different media outlets, as well as the youth sports groups. How can we make connections between, better connections between what we're doing at the high school and the various youth sports leagues that we have or programs throughout Milford.
Don't do the IT yet.
Well, I've got one more piece on
I'm
this.
sorry,
You're killing me, man. You're killing me.
It's only the beginning.
I know. We haven't even started. Additionally, the subcommittee will have regular follow-up meetings throughout the year. The committee's made up of school committee members, school administration, central office administration, athletic director, and a couple other key folks throughout the district. and this will be kind of the key group. We may bring in other groups of folks as we kind of target a specific school, a specific grade level, or highlight a particular program.
And I think one thing, Kevin, we were talking about the other day is, and it's just the beginning of what we're doing with marketing, but we know the numbers are preliminary, but we believe that we've kept roughly around 100 students from the 8th grade class that traditionally were leaving are now going up into the freshman class of Milford High School, just by what we've just started doing now. You know, forget what we have planned.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was gonna ask a question. If I read right, we had a graduating class of 226?
That's correct.
No,
Two-
237 was the graduating
Okay.
class this year.
Okay.
The freshman class is high. Freshman class is around 340, and the sophomore class is in the threes again.
That makes me feel better, because when I looked at 1974, we were at 222.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when I see less than one addition per year,
Right.
it gets me a little nervous, but we always lost 80-ish from 8th grade, I think it was.
Yeah.
Give or take, depending on the year.
Yeah, it's somewhere around 80. So looking at BVT applications going down doesn't excite me. Looking at Milford High applications, not that you have to apply, but enrollment
Enrollment going up.
going up.
Right.
Now, that's a very good sign.
But we won't know the answer till September, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, again, there's still a lot of things in flux, but
Right.
I think
But we know-
initially, we're pleased that for every student that doesn't go to BVT, they tend to, for every application, it tends to be a Milford High School grad.
Well, I just
Or Milford High
remember,
School enrollee.
8th grade, you kind of had a feeling.
Right.
You know, are you losing 90, and that was kind of a hard year? Are you losing 70 or 65, which was a good year? So, I mean, you ought to have a gut feeling, like you're saying that,
I think we're leaning towards a good year.
That's good. Bobby?
Just a quick question, if I may. Is the committee planning to publish any type of report, either an interim report or a final report? Because I know they were looking at some of the causes, and I know those are a little bit fluid, but will they ever come out with a report to state, here's what we implemented to cause the results that we hopefully will obtain? So,
I think we'll-
anything written?
I think we're gonna look at it each year, and we'll probably put something together, some kind of report together. I don't think we're like, this past year's efforts, we're not gonna probably know till September, when we actually have the enrollment data, when the kids actually show up at the doorstep.
Right.
So we really don't have, we have some preliminary data,
Yeah.
but I think it's gonna be like a 3 to 5 year piece where you're really gonna see the trends shifting in the
I
other
understand
direction.
that, but do you have any, don't you think it would be useful as we gauge that or look at that along the way? I mean, it's not an impossible number to.
No, I think.
No, yeah, we're
would
gonna
agree.
be, we're gonna be constantly
Yeah, I would
looking at
agree.
that, and
I think you're right.
And
I think it's too early to kind of give anything at this point.
Yeah, I
That's,
agree.
the school subcommittee has talked about metrics and reporting of metrics throughout the year on a number of different issues. And this is a significant one, and we will
Absolutely.
expect to see some sort of results based on what they've done, and, yeah, no question about that.
and it's been 60 days, Mr. Ligor's marketing plan, we'd expect.
I was supposed to
All
take
those.
effect at the first 30 days.
Kevin, Michael, it's very interesting to see what you're going to do collecting the data. My thought is, and maybe you've already thought about this, how do you deliver the information to people who don't come to your meetings? And we all know that you get half to a third as many as you would like to come to your meetings. How do you plan to deliver the information to them? Right now, you mentioned the technology aspects. Any consideration to making this thing a production? I mean, show me all the good things, this is what we're doing, run these videos through your AP classes, run them through your athletic programs, run them through whatever you run them through. People are visual learners for the most part, and they like to see it. If they can't touch it, they want to see it. And almost to the point of making them want to. It's like they do every time you see a promo on TV. You know, they a promo, you want to watch the show. Now, here, you guys put a promo out, they want to come and visit with you.
And the lip dub the high school has done, and versions of that, we've turned it into almost like you're saying, like a commercial or a promo for the high school, and we've received a lot of positive feedback on that, and we've shown that.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You need to have a commercial to, this is what we're selling.
What-
They're in the business of selling. So, I mean, if people don't know what you have to offer, they can't possibly buy it.
Yeah,
So-
we also did and we did the training one too, where the athletic director brought a gentleman in to train all the coaches. It was at the end of last summer, it was a week long, correct? Coaches and captains of all the sports teams, and we videoed it, and we shot that out as well through social media. But social media is where everybody's watching anything you've got.
That's where you advertise your offerings.
That's what Joe mentioned on the phone. He said social media is gonna be very big.
It's
Absolutely.
Huge.
Whether you guys put together, the part of the outreach, he talked about a real estate group getting together.
Yeah,
And as an agent, what we do is we pull data off of MLS and a couple of other areas that talk about the town and the demographics and the median income and, you know, all of the data points that everybody would look at. There's nothing in there that I recall that talks about the district's ability to perform, the district's ability to have AP classes, you know, all of the things. And so that's what they want to do at this roundtable, is come up with a marketing program to hand out to real estate agents, so we can hand it out to prospective clients that want to move into town,
Right.
which is a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, because that's significant.
Yeah, you have a ready group
Right,
to promote the school.
yeah, no question about it. There's enough real estate agents in this town to sink a battleship.
I think what was interesting for us as well is when we went to the middle school, to the 8th grade, and, you know, basically brought our road show, and then took the 8th graders up to the high school and put them through the paces at the high school. It's an awful word, but the perception that was out there, you know, people were saying, geez, we didn't know you had this. We didn't know that this went on. We didn't know that you could do this. And, you know, that was a learning experience for us as well.
Right, and the other thing that Joe brought up was sports. As we all recall, back 10 years ago, 8 years ago, people choiced into this town because of the sports programs, the football program, the basketball program, the baseball program, the soccer programs. They were top-notch. And, you know, we were 1AA and we won championships and all of these things. That's haven't been occurring, and so I think the emphasis with the new athletic director will be to improve all of that and work with the youth groups, as you said. And, because, you know, I remember when our kids played on the football team, they started as Mighty Mites, and they all grew up together.
Right.
And played at the high school level as a team. That doesn't happen now either.
Right.
So that's a big part of choice program, I think.
But you know, getting the new athletic director's face and message out, I was really, really pleased talking to him
Sure.
about his philosophy, you know, because it wasn't one-sided. You know, he really talked about a balanced approach. You know, he used the word student-athlete over and over.
Right.
Getting that kind of message out
terms.
there saying, okay, your kid may not be the next NBA star or NHL player, but they're gonna learn good, solid life lessons and be competitive athletes. It's gotta have an impact.
Well, they're starting programs in the 8th grade, and that's gonna be a big help as well.
But he's a master at it too. He has what he calls Hawk of the Week.
Yep.
Hawk of the Month, and their pictures, you go down the corridor of the high school, their pictures are actually, you know, displayed, so people that are walking in and out of the high school can see them, you know, and then now in the second wing upstairs, they've got a whole group of pictures, all of different athletes. I mean, he's really promoting athletics. He really
And
is.
the Leadership Academy that he put together has gotten a lot of traction at the state level and some national recognition. And I know a couple companies were very interested in having them share some of their techniques that are kind of connected to athletics. Joe
Joe told me that Belichick was gonna coach next, no.
We're looking at them.
Look,
He has to apply.
it's still a stipend,
Is the
right?
stipend big enough?
He hasn't been to
Chris.
this level yet.
I had a question for you guys about the programs, and you talked about how you've instituted in the 8th grade, and then you're going to move to the 7th grade, and you said, and so on. I'm curious about the fact that are you going to be going down from grades? Because I'd really like to see it, because I would think that the transitions would be the 8th grade and kindergarten would be our two areas in which people would be making their decisions. I don't think a lot of people go for 3 years to Milford and then leave. I think it's those milestones of a transition from school, where 8th grade to high school, obviously, that's when you make a decision. You don't go from 6th grade to say, where am I going to 7th grade? So I'm hoping you guys are going to start on both ends of the spectrum, both hitting the kindergarten areas and then obviously the 8th grade areas where our two big transitions are. Obviously entering school and then going from, from
No,
high-
that's absolutely correct. We're trying to find those key, like you said, the key transition years. And we're really marketing aggressively to our own customers to some degree. And in speaking about what the next school will offer, what the next, what the high school offers, where the high school graduates are going, what the results are in terms of, AP tests, those types of things, which I think are which put us in a very competitive place.
Because I just want us to be very strong at courting the kindergartners, because that's where you're going to get your kids coming to school. Because I understand that people leave, but if you at least get them into our schools and you see what great programs we have, I think people, because of the job that you're doing, people will be less likely to leave. And we just need to get them there, because a lot of people will make the decision right at kindergarten and say, well, if I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to decide where my kid's going to go to school. It's probably going to be right from kindergarten on. So just as long as you guys focus on that, because I think, to me, that's an extremely important.
I mean, we did promise we wouldn't go too
Yeah,
deep
sorry.
today.
No, I don't want to do too
No,
deep.
but
I
just
just want to
one-
say, I mean, we
I just think
promised
it's
Joe
Yeah.
that we would look for high level, but not grill you, but we do look forward to Dr. Ligor's intense marketing plan.
But one of the, real quick, one of the other things that we're looking at right now is we're partnering with Mass Bay, and we're in the process of putting together a program where the students are gonna have to take the same test that you would take entry-level college, and if they pass it, they're gonna be able to take college-level courses from Mass Bay while they're seniors in Milford High School. And of course, what we're looking for is, if they do it properly, they'll go into their first year of college, technically in their second year, and will have saved all that tuition money. So that's another thing that we're working on.
The other thing that Joe did mention, to your point, Chris, was that they were gonna start marketing, putting up Hawks pennants and Hawks things in Memorial and Brookside and
Yes.
Stacy. So the students would get an idea of what the fervor of the high school camaraderie is,
But
and
you
that's
build the
important.
whole brand,
Right,
as he
you build the
mentioned.
brand.
Too many times over the past decade, you've seen, well, this school is building its brand with a blue color. They kept saying, what am I in St. Mary's?
Yeah.
I'm dating myself, but
You would
you
be,
know, it's.
you would be in, all right. Information technology.
All right. So,
Well, let me preface this by saying that this committee and the subcommittees and the school subcommittee has been talking about this for a while. And when the town meeting occurred and that article came on town meeting floor for 300th K, we were sort of lost for a little bit. Because we asked for a business plan, and that's where we're still at, and that's where we want to hear where we are in that stage,
So Dr. Matthew Joseph begins July 1st, and his first order of business is to put together the IT strategic plan, which he'll have ready for everybody in September, which will be about 60 days into his tenure. And without going into a ton of details, if you turn to the second page, and it's kind of hard to read, but I just want to kind of talk to some of the things he's going to speak to in the strategic plan, because he's already started a document that we're starting to build upon. And it's basically, what is the vision? How does it impact curriculum and assessment? What technologies are we going to use to support teaching and learning? How does this impact school facilities and our learning environments? The IT organizational development and staffing, and you'll look at a 3-year plan, and we may actually even have them go 5-year on that one, because we really want to kind of look a little further there. Staff development and human resources management, standards, procurement, maintenance, and asset management. So how are we going to, kind of when we bring equipment, servers, infrastructure in, what's the replacement plan for that? What's the replacement plan for devices that students will be using? What are the policies, procedures, security, and safety? Schools and programming, level planning, administration and productivity systems, decision support and accountability systems, communication and network infrastructure, community home access and participation, IT monitoring, evaluation, and implementation management, budget funding, total cost of ownership, and sustainability. So those are the areas that you'll expect to report. You know, we're gonna get it to the school committee, we're obviously gonna share it with the finance committee, but that's gonna be his job in the first 60 days, is to really put that together.
My hat's off that budget is the last line item,
I see that.
not the first.
Yeah, and maybe Kevin, you can explain to them, he actually, this gentleman actually was one of the finalists for the principal's position. And it was Kevin who picked up on his resume that he had, he set up a,
He's done, his background is almost perfectly set up for the job description that we put out there for this position. He set up one of the first one-to-one computer systems in the state of Massachusetts. He's had extensive experience working with Apple and Macintosh. He is speaking, I think, both at the regional level and national level on educational technology. And he's really focused on kind of the end user, which is really where we want to be, because everything kind of goes back to that. We want the technology to support the learning and the teaching that's happening in the Milford Public Schools, and what do we do to kind of make that happen? And how does that look, you know, from what devices, what professional development, what kind of a budget impact is it going to have? How does this all play together to kind of create this kind of seamless program that really supports kind of those 21st century skills that'll be developed for the students in Milford? And that's really what we're looking for.
Jeff?
Yeah, and is he gonna be tied at the hip with Andy, so that we're aligned for what the town's doing and the school's doing, so we don't have two separate platforms, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's the goal, is to really get everybody, you know, on the same page, because ideally, we've got a number of different systems and programs happening across the different departments, and I think we do want to eventually get to that convergence. It's probably going to take a few years, but I think those are the types of conversations we want to have, and he has the ability to do that, and he really has a clear understanding of, you know, not only how to do it on the education side, but what do you need from a backbone perspective to kind of make that happen, and how do you kind of work interdepartmentally to kind of have that cooperation in those same systems, so the phones aren't one way in one place, the servers aren't one way in another place, and we have all kinds of difficulties if we want to make those connections.
see what we like to see. We'd like to see Andy get the educational experience from this gentleman while he's here. You know, we don't know how long he'll stay. We hope he stays for a long time, but, you know, we would hope that he can pass on to Andy his educational experience.
Bobby?
Yeah, I just have one suggestion, if you could add one more bullet there. It's
Sure.
just a suggestion. I'd like to see something along the lines of milestones and measures of success.
Okay.
Well, it's all part, I mean, as I said,
And reports.
You don't need to elaborate on what I said. I understand
not.
what I'm doing, but I think it's good to look at those milestones and say, what are our successes and when did we see them?
Right. Where are we going and have we gotten there?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll leave that up to them.
anybody else? All right, the next item I had was, we, the school subcommittee and the school committee talked about ongoing communication on a monthly basis. And Joe said that, I said Jose, Joe said that he was working on a monthly topic of discussion, if you will, to educate us to what you do, so we can report back to this committee, so we're much more knowledgeable when it comes to budget time and discussion on how we get to where we need to be.
I thought we were gonna meet monthly.
Yeah, monthly.
Okay.
But he was coming up with a schedule and a plan, and I was just looking for where he is on the schedule and the plan.
I can't answer to that.
He didn't tell me on the phone either. He
Okay,
said,
but I'll get that to you by tomorrow.
no rush, I think we wanna meet through the summer anyhow.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
If you would, remind him we want quarterly meetings with the capital subcommittee.
Sure.
Only because, you know, trying to squeeze it in like we did last time to a mega meeting
So,
just is too tight.
yeah.
I'd rather, where the school committee is 60-odd% of our capital budget or more, I'd rather break it up into 4 bite-sized pieces so that we can look over, you know, the big items and have time to talk about, you know, each of them. And I think quarterly will be fine. If we need more, we're happy to do it, but do you agree?
all right. And the last item I had was Middle School East. And I need to preface this with a whole bunch of issues, and we've talked about this offline. The ed plan for the school talked about a new middle school or new elementary school. The town stepped up 2 years ago and said we would do the new school. The ed plan also said that when the new school was completed, that the middle school lease would be put surplus to the town. The selectmen, knowing that, put a committee together 2 years ago to investigate all of the possibilities of use for that building. Cost the town some money and a bunch of time from all the volunteers on the committee. And we got to a conclusion point. We submitted a report to the selectmen. And at our last school committee, subcommittee meeting, this committee heard, or our subcommittee heard, that you're not sure you want to do that yet. And so what I'm asking, I guess, is where are you on making a recommendation on what you want to do with that building? And being cognizant of the fact that there are very few things you can do that won't trigger a ton of upgrades and money. And I know John Erickson looked at all of that, and he's the building commissioner and all of that stuff. So I just want an update, if you have it, where we are on committing that school to be surplus or be used by the school committee.
Well, they had their first meeting the other night, Mark, and unfortunately, John is not here to speak to what they talked about at that meeting. But just to kind of give you a highlight of why we set up a subcommittee from the school committee was, for example, at the high school, Shining Star is out of space. I mean, they're now taking the Family Network Center, and the Family Network Center is going to keep one room at the high school, and now we've moved them down to Milford Catholic Elementary for another room to temporarily try and get them space until we figure out what we can do with them. But the bottom line is Shining Star is growing out of the basement of the high school, and to be honest with you, this shouldn't really be in the basement of the high school. But you get your high school principal who has come to us that she wants to improve the curriculum of the high school. She doesn't have the room to do that. So we look at central office and we say, well, we've always said that central office shouldn't be in the high school. Central office should be in its own area. So we say, could we move central office there? You have programs in the elementary school they want to expand on. They don't have the room. So what we're saying is, and we're not looking for disagreements, what we're saying is before we say, hey, this building is going to go surplus, we want to make sure that, from the school committee side, and also from the town side, that we don't have a use for that building before we give it up. So that's why we set up our own subcommittee.
And I don't think that's an issue from my perspective. I mean, the only issue I have is, why did you do it 2 years ago? We wasted some time, and that's really what bugs me.
Yeah, and I understand that, but, and not being disrespectful, I guess I would answer that by saying things change.
Well, things change. Okay, so let's talk about one other thing in relation to that, is when we tear down Woodland, what are we doing with the portables? Why can't we utilize those in some area that maybe at Shining Star and give them all that space?
If I'm not mistaken, the portables got sold, correct?
No,
Or
they're going.
they're going, yeah.
Okay.
One fundamental nit, I keep hearing the school committee has to decide what to do with their building. It's a Milford building. We've always worked together, and I've
Yes.
said from the beginning, Mike, even if you declared it surplus, and then you came back and said, we really need it, it's a town of Milford building. If we desperately needed part of the high school more than anything else, the town would ask you, and you would give us part of the high school. So I'm not really worried about this ownership thing. I'm more looking at what's the best for the town. So, for years, we've said, what are you doing for kids? My father, who wasn't an academician, you put him in an academic environment, he's not going to do well. But you put a tool in his hand, and all of a sudden, he was an artist. And I look at BVT, and unless you're the top 10% of your class, you're not getting in. So you have to be an academic star to qualify to learn how to be somebody who uses tools. I'd love to hear, if you're going to expand the high school, what programs, what are you doing? Because obviously the top 10%, we always want to make sure that group of special needs kids, gets their programs.
We have two going right now. We have the hospitality management program, which is in its third year, I want to say. And this year, Dr. Tremblay started basically the early run of the automotive program. So I actually have the first student. So he does his academics at the high school, and he does his technical training with me.
And Mike, I don't want to nitpick tonight, because I promised we wouldn't ask, but when you come back, what's number 3?
Okay.
What's number 4? Where are you going to put them?
Right.
Because I'd hate to find out that we're not offering a course, I don't know, carpentry or what. I mean, 8th grade, we had a teacher up at Middle School East with a wood shop. And then it sort of goes away. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not even trying to influence it. But I would like to hear, what are we doing for those kids who are artists with their hands,
Yeah.
but not academically at the top of their class? Because they can't get into BVT. And we're leaving them, my mind, we're leaving them in a place that isn't optimal. And if that building is a solution for it by shuffling, moving, I don't know what, because Mark's right. We have to look at the clawback. And it's what, $300,000-$400?
5 or 6. But
Or 5 or 6?
whatever the number is.
That's 3, yeah,
Yeah.
it's 5 or 6 with both schools.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, but I mean, it's significant money that we have to look at. Renovations are significant. It's all real money, but at the end of the day, this town's always taken care of its kids when it made sense. So if there are programs that will benefit, I'd love to hear them and not just write them off because, you know, it's been 40 years, we haven't added 1 square foot to that high school. You know, I gotta believe that,
We
you
also
know,
haven't added any more kids, so.
Yeah.
well, you added.
Be careful.
You added 1 kid per year, but what I remember Jose Vieira telling me, because I was the one that said there were 222 kids, first class out of there in '74. Now there's 240, or 260, but a couple years ago it was 260.
Yeah,
It was
senior
1 kid per year.
Yeah.
But what Jose told me was when we went in there in '73, '74, the square footage per student was much smaller. So a lot of the programs now need more geography, and that's what's kind of bulging.
You can actually see that when you go up into the labs and walk around the labs, that's a great statement, you can see that. They're jammed, and it's jammed with things that they're using in education. No, they probably weren't.
Again, I don't want to go through the nits, but I'd like to hear about new programs, not new spending, because I'm not excited about Franklin spends 18% more than, I don't care. I care about Milford. You know, but if it's new programs, that's a whole different game.
A lot of what people said, and once again, I don't want to get into this, but I think just it's important, I think the dialogue happens, and it happens a lot about this building. Because in my personal opinion, you guys can't take that whole building. You can't afford it, you can't fill it. Town offices, we want to do things with that building. We can't afford it, we can't fill it. I think, and it's always been from, we said from the beginning, there's going to be a co-op use of that building. And I think if we are going to be able to afford it and be able to use the entire building, that the conversation happens in between us. You guys want this part, the town wants this part, and that through that discussion and through that budgeting, I think we can accomplish that. But the point is, once again, you guys can think about what you want to do with that building. I know you guys can't fill that whole building and afford to do the entire building, just like the town can. And that's why I think the conversations between the two of us is really the only way that we're going to achieve a good result for what that building is going to happen, so.
Absolutely.
That's really all I
That's a
have to
great
say.
point.
And that committee looked at all of that. I mean, I think the number that came back from all of the town's departments were 12,000 square feet usage out of 40, without the gym, don't even include the gym. So, I mean, there's some issues to discuss. To Al's point, we have to be careful about what kind of vocational programs we offer because we belong to the BVT consortium.
Right, but that's why Dr. Tremblay, what he's done is like the automotive program. It's not a true auto, because he's getting his academics there and he's getting his technical training with me, so.
Right, and I agree, we have to be careful how we
Right.
do it. And Dr. Fitzpatrick, I mean, we talked with him significantly about this, the exact same problem. And he's not adverse to working with the town to develop programs in the town that they don't have at PVT. And that's a whole nother issue with PVT, which I don't really wanna talk about and get into right now, but.
Really, this is supposed to be a summary.
One quick thought. A lot of comments have been made, but what we need to do is give these people the opportunity to bring something back, so we can figure out whether we can, the whole building, half a building, none of the building. But well, you know, the cart before the horse tonight. Put
It's
it
all well,
together and let's see what happens.
and that's exactly why I brought it up, because that's what we want to be.
We can't solve the
The
problem.
the town side put something together. Now, you guys want to put something together, that's fine, and we'll talk about how we ought to get there.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I have nothing else.
That's it.
Anybody have anything else from the school department? Gentlemen, have a great summer.
Good meeting.
When's the open house, right?
When's the open house at Woodland? I don't know, ask the chairman of the building committee.
We don't know yet either.
It's over here.
All I can tell you, Mike, is wait till you see it.
It's nice,
How long was last week?
nice building.
Chairman did a
It
walkthrough.
was last
Last
week.
week.
Aldo did a walkthrough that'll be on TV in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you'll see it rough.
It is over the
Put a camera
top.
on your head and walk through it?
Is it Mike?
Oh,
I'm just gonna ignore that.
you, when you're, I won't steal Aldo's thunder, but when you're in the cafetorium and your back is to the stage and you look up, you're looking up to the second floor, and that end is the music department.
very cool.
Wing. The walls are all tile, different colored tiles, and in the tile is the design of pianos and trumpets
Really?
and guitar. Oh,
What about the tree? There's a tree.
oh yeah,
that
there's
goes up 3
trees,
stories. Really
painted
pretty.
But
trees.
that's in the main building.
Yeah.
You're talking, in that area, the other half of it is the art department.
It's very
Oh.
nice.
So what you have is, they've done a lot, yes.
I think
I'm
the
not gonna
greatest
spoil it.
part was while we were doing this, we kept losing our camera crew, because they kept just staring in awe, and one of them was not a Milfordian, who said, I want to come here.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
All right, I'm good.
I'm just hoping we
Gentlemen,
get a lot of oohs and ahs.
you will, don't worry.
gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Have a good
guys.
evening.
Thanks.
Okay, next item I have on the agenda. When this committee adjourns for the summer, we normally give the executive committee powers to approve any items that come up that normally the finance committee would
So move,
discuss.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Next is election. Turn it over to the chairman.
Motion to temporarily adjourn this meeting, so that Aldo can take over.
I'm
We
not
don't have
sure
to adjourn it?
I don't think we need to do
Okay.
that. I think it's part of the agenda.
turn it
Oh,
over to him.
go ahead. Before you say one thing, can I just make a comment? You notice on this agenda that new and old business is not there anymore. And I don't know if anybody read the emails that I sent out before the last town meeting. It won't appear anymore. So, my recommendation is when the new chairman puts out an email and asks if there's anything to be added to the agenda, give him what he needs, because you can't bring it up under new business, and old business would appear on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay? The only new business we could possibly bring up is an emergency situation that occurred within the last couple of hours. So, I don't want to run afoul of the open meeting law again.
Is that true, Mr. Chairman, even if you want to bring something up to be enlightened or get more detailed, even if you're not going to take a vote or anything?
That's a whole different issue.
Okay, so those are okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a different
General
issue. I don't even
discussion.
know where you,
Yeah,
that's a
general
general
discussion.
discussion.
Because Bobby, I mean, we've always invited
Right.
people who have specific questions,
Right.
residents, to talk. But I think a general
If we're going to
discussion.
vote on it or something else, that's
Yeah, if it's something that needs to be voted on, it needs to be on the agenda.
No, because you could put it for the next month's meeting, you have the discussion, then you put it on next month's agenda.
And also, I'm not sure when when we should do this, before we adjourn or after. I would think it would be before we adjourn. I would hope to open discussion about maybe increasing the executive committee from 3 additional members besides the chairman and the vice chairman to 4. If we have a new chairman that isn't as experienced as the old chairman, I think maybe the input of another executive committee member, I think might be useful. I'm not sure anyone else's opinion on the matter, but I think to have an extra person, in addition to the chair and the vice chair, I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way.
The only thing I would say is, if you're gonna add 2. 'Cause then you're putting 6 on the committee, and a vote could end up in a tie. If you're gonna
Precedent,
add 1, add 2, keep it an odd number.
Remember, if you add too many, you have a quorum.
right.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
need a quorum of that committee anyway.
Not of that committee,
Of this committee.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful now. Precedent is that we've had 4 members on that committee, on the executive committee before. We've had 5 on that committee before. We also had 3 with the past chairman sitting in. So whatever is comfortable for this committee is comfortable to talk about and make a decision, so you guys do it.
Mark,
Sir?
I don't want to disagree, but I think the current setup is working, has worked. It's designed to be kind of unique, a tight little group for a short period of time to carry us through. And if you need another member, tap the door. Go tap on Mr. DeVita's head and say, would you join the meeting?
Actually, Jerry, the committee does not dissolve at the end of the summer.
I understand. It
Goes all
still
year long.
keeps working. It needs to carry the mission over the summer, and it's got its own executive
Right.
strategic position
Throughout the year.
throughout the year. And if you need some expertise, Mr. Tenaro, Mr. DeVita, or somebody, pick up the phone
It
and
was-
call
it
and say,
was-
come to the meeting.
It was just a point for conversation. I think it's a good point.
Well, we also always welcome any of the FinCom
Yeah,
members.
anybody's welcome
I mean,
to
that
that.
would never change.
No.
Okay, Mr.
We got a good job to do. Right on.
You're on, sir.
For the past month, I've been entertaining people sending me their wishes to serve on one of the positions. And around here, it's like pulling teeth. And, so right now, gentlemen and lady, we have 5 positions to be filled: the chairman, the vice chairman, 3 members of the executive committee. As Chris had mentioned, the chairman and the vice chairman are members of the executive committee by virtue of the positions they hold. So what I'm prepared to do this evening, assuming that this is the way people want it to go, I'm prepared to give you a slate of individuals and recommend these folks put their names in nomination for the position. For example, Chris Moran has indicated his desire to be the chairman. I will place his name in nomination. Alberto Correa as the vice chairman, I would similarly do that. On the executive committee, Mark Shane, Mike Soares, and Mike Chiavi. They all indicated a wish to serve as executive committee members. So I am prepared at this point to make a nomination for Chris Moran to serve as chairman. And I will accept any other nominations for chairman that might want to come forward. Seeing none, I will declare the nominations closed, and I will, at the end of the presentation. And the vice chairman, Alberto Correa, those nominations are closed. Executive committee, Mark Shane, Mike Soares, and Mike Chiavi. I will declare those nominations closed. With the consent of the group, I will cast 1 vote for all those gentlemen to serve in those positions.
So moved.
Second.
So done. Congratulations.
My thoughts.
Move to adjourn.
Good job.
Any other discussions before we adjourn? Move. Have a great summer, everybody.
Have a good summer. Hit the golf ball long.